Okay, so we have our dry fly attached, okay, with that 1620 knot that we just did with our hemostats. And this is that monofilament leader we had, so that dry is going to float even better. And then what I like to do is I'm holding it, I'm facing it, and I move the knot on there, that 1620, away from me. That way it opens up all of this eyelet right here. And with flies, obviously you got, this is a hopper imitation. You're gonna have all of that excess, fur and the rubber legs and all that. So anyways, I'm gonna go here, and I like to carry 4, 5, 6x monofilament, 4, 5, 6x fluoro, and I have an extra 6x because I use fluoro a lot and I like nymph fishing, so I'm sorry. Alright, and anyways, I'm gonna grab us some 5x fluoro. That's kind of the standard, at least where we fish here in the Southwest. And we're doing just the same thing that we did before. And I like to go through the eyelet. You can do this around the bottom of the hook, but I honestly think that kind of hurts you if they happen to hit your dry, because I think it messes up the hook set because you're giving yourself only half the hook here. So that's why I like going with the eyelet, because if you go through the eyelet, this dry fly is going to be floating free. All right, so same thing. You're going underneath that eyelet, holding it in your left hand, and you're gonna bring that up and give yourself some slack. And the key here is to kind of get that leader away so you don't get that in the tangled mess with your other stuff. Same thing, right over left. Make sure that line's inside the loop. Lock your hemostats, and you're doing the same thing away from that leader line. 1, 2, 3. All right, and then you grab that tag end, and then like we said, once you get down here, give it a little moisture, pull that tight. Again, don't go too crazy with it. Pull them both, and then the key here is you have this big loop. You don't want to get any of those legs or any of that fur tied up in there, and that's why we cleared out this other side. So bring it down, boom, click, and then now trim off the tag end. All right, so that's how we attach. And now see how free that dry fly is. It's not encumbered by anything, it can float freely. So then we have our dropper, and I'm gonna do a larger one here. I like, no matter what your dropper is, if it's like, usually people say about a foot, whatever, depending on what water you're fishing and all that. No matter what it is, say you're doing a foot, I like to give myself a little extra, and then I'm gonna cut it off. All right, so right now we have our leader up here in my left hand. We have our dry fly that's free. Look at that, look how it spins. It's free, it can float, act natural. And then now we have our fluorocarbon dropper, which fluorocarbon is designed to be invisible and sink. Okay, now I'm gonna put on my dropper. And what we do here is that same perfection loop. Okay, so we're just gonna make a quick little loop right under our left. And then we're gonna feed it through the eyelet. I usually hold the nymph or whatever dropper I'm gonna be using like this, you know, where I'm kind of going up and under the eyelet. And we all know they have flies. Sometimes you got to clear that eyelet. So I'm in there, I'm in the eyelet. I'm gonna pull that tag end through and I'm gonna drop it. It's a perfect example of what happens when you're on the water or the wind's blowing or whatever. And you don't have to do this loop knot, but I love to do it for nymphs and anything that's going to go under the water because it just gives it so much more action. Okay, so we have that on there. And then the same perfection loop we did earlier. We're going over it with a large loop. And then we're taking this tag end here and we're going to put it inside that larger loop and then pinch it with our left booger finger and our thumb. Okay? And then from here, you flip your nymph inside. I like to hold it with my two fingers here, my middle and my booger. And then I pull the leader line, you know, down, tighten it down a little bit, as long as it's over the nymph, which it is. And then I grab both the tag end and the leader line, and then I'll tighten them a little bit. And this is when I like to moisten the knot. Okay, I moisten that knot. And you'd be fine with that loop right there. But what I like to make it as close to the eyelet as possible. So what you can do is this loose tag end here, to make the loop smaller, you pull a little bit on that, boom, and it's almost all the way up there, but it still gives you that gap, that loop. And then you grab the tag end and the leader, both of them at the same time, pull, and then you grab the leader, boom, click, and look at how tight and small that loop is. You can barely see it, but look at this. This thing's now going to be able to have so much more action going through the water if it wasn't just directly tied. And this, same thing, you can clip it pretty damn close, the tag end. Gotta sharpen these guys. There we go. That's how small that loop is. And you're not going to get any loop tighter and more perfect than that. And again, that allows the nymph to see, just like that, it can float naturally like a nymph would through the water. Up, down, and all that.